That is an interesting word, purity. In today's modern American society, you rarely hear that word unless of course it is being used to mock somebody. You remember the Jonas Brothers? They made all sorts of news because they resolved to stay virgins until they get married. Make no mistake about it. Purity is not exactly a very popular concept nowadays. A lot of people think of purity as some sort of throwback to a corny, cheesy and otherwise outdated moral age. They look at it as a symptom of being close-minded. Well, if you are an Aquarius and you are on the fence regarding purity, the good news is that it is worth choosing. There is a reason why many older people believe in the value of purity. Purity is not just about physical chastity. It is not just about avoiding certain temptations. Purity in of itself is crucial to building a solid character. What is the opposite of purity? The opposite of purity is moral pollution. In other words, you so eagerly incorporate the influences of other people that you do not really have a moral core. This is a serious problem because the world is a series of moral challenges. If you are simply just going to bend over and change directions based on the direction the wind is blowing, chances are you really will not be able to stand up for much. At the end of the day, you are simply going along with the crowd. Regrettably, a lot of times the crowd is wrong. A lot of times, conventional wisdom is completely bankrupt or incorrect. People would respect you more if you have internal principles that you are willing to go to the mat for. If you are willing to stand for certain things, you will stand out from the crowd. Here are 6 reasons why you should consider choosing purity. Be the anchor in an ever-changing world. Aquarius people do not have a tough time choosing moral ideals. They have strong emotional ideals and they can stick to their guns. Unfortunately, they often go about this in such a way that they end up shooting themselves in the foot. If you want to get along with other people, you have to deal with this tendency. However, I'm not saying that you should simply go the other direction and simply to go along to get along. In many instances, it makes sense to choose purity and choose a seemingly impossible standard. Why? You become a better leader. When you choose something that most people run away from or simply think it is outdated, you set a moral standard. You have to believe in the reality that most people are lost. They are like sheep. They are always looking for shepherds. If you are that person that is unchanging in your moral standards, you will be the anchor that people can point to and draw strength from in an ever-changing and uncertain world. People are unhappy because they do not have a core. If you want to be happy, you have to stand for something. There is no happiness in simply being like everybody else. Why? There is no control there. When things change and circumstances take a different direction overnight, it is very easy to feel distracted and confused. It is very easy to be just like another face in the crowd and drift aimlessly from one extreme to the other. Most people are unhappy because they do not have moral bedrock. They do not have a clue as to what is stable, what is pure and what is desirable. If you choose purity, you get clarity and you get a set direction that will not change based on the set of circumstances you find yourself in. This can definitely give you a strong sense of inner satisfaction. At the very least, you would not feel like you were off track. At the very least, you would not feel confused all the time. This of course leads to a high degree of self-satisfaction. Having solid values gives you direction. There are 2 ways to go through life. You can either have a compass and a map in front of you or you are just simply going to fly by the seat of your pants. Now, do not get me wrong. Living life by the seat of your pants can be a lot of fun. Living on a moment-to-moment basis can put a lot of chills, thrills and spills in your daily routine. At the very least, it puts you in a distinct opportunity to live in the moment. The problem with this is that a lot of the times, most of these situations are beyond your control. Worst of all, a lot of the people calling the shots do not have your best interest in mind. Not surprisingly, you end up getting lost. Not surprisingly, you end up playing a role in a play written by somebody else. That is right. You simply become another pawn in the great chessboard of life. If, however, you want a greater degree of direction and by extension personal control, You need to focus on having solid values. Your solid values may not always lead you to the victory that you are looking for. However, it gives you something tangible. It gives you direction. As long as you have direction, victory will always be around the corner. Having clear principles give you inner strength. One of the reasons why morally confused people stumble over and over again is they are weak inside. They are always looking for a shortcut. They are always looking for what is convenient. Not surprisingly, things that hurt, things that poison relationships are often easy. They are often at the end of the path of least resistance. This is why people with no inner strength are drawn to morally confused and morally vague positions. These positions always give them out. It makes things easy for them. Unfortunately, it leads to a very unfulfilling life. Your life is an endless series of circumstances that do not really lead to a strong sense of control and direction. If you want to tap into that strong sense of inner strength, focus on having clear principles and focus on purity. Being too quick to compromise leads to a sloppy life. Have you ever observed the lives of people that are always ready to compromise? Have you ever taken the time to talk to somebody who is all too eager to take shortcuts through life? 9 times out of 10, they are not very happy. 9 times out of 10, they feel that they are living mediocre lives. Most of the time, they feel that they could be living a much better life if things were different. Well, you know the answer to this. The missing ingredient is that they do not have core principles. They are not willing to do what it takes for however long it takes to choose solid principles. Instead, they are constantly running towards the next big easy thing. Unfortunately, this leads to sloppy results. By being too quick to compromise, you will simply be resigning yourself to the leftovers life has for you. This is no way to live if you have high standards. This is why it is really important to choose purity, not just in terms of your love life, but also in terms of your personal philosophy, character and values. Your life's quality turns on your ability to follow through on your values. People will respect you more if they understand and know that you stand for something. It may not stand for values that they might necessarily agree with, but at least you stand for something. This makes you stand out from the crowd. This makes you a touchstone or a role model for action and for principles. These are types of people that go somewhere in life. When all is said and done, people will only remember others who stood for something. 9 times out of 10, these people stood for solid principles. By choosing purity, you are sending out a clear and unmistakable message of character.